Welcome to Broadstairs Life. Welcome to Broadstairs Life. Today I'm very privileged to be sat in the Palace Cinema here in Broadstairs, and I'm sat here with Corinna.
Hello.
And Simon.
Hi.
Who are the owners?
Yep.
Yeah, nodding heads. Yeah. Owners, yeah. Brilliant. So tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you're in Broadstairs and why you have this place.
Okay, I'll start. We arrived in Broadstairs about 12 years ago, and we were, we're classic, we're DFLs. There we are.
Join the club.
Exactly, many of us are.
Yep.
So we arrived with our then two little daughters,
Right.
expecting to see a bit more of them and do a bit more of that. And then our background is in the film industry, one way or another, which we can go a bit more into. But we arrived here really thinking we'd be working in London and living in Broadstairs. And then we found out that this place was for sale. And it is a long story, I won't go into it all now, but basically we became friends with the previous owners, Sean and Colin, and they had wanted the cinema to go to someone who knew what they were doing, knew the business, and would look after it, considering
and
how
loved
much...
cinema.
And loved cinema, exactly. And also they'd put so much into it in the time that they'd really, when they took it on, it had been the Windsor and it had been going downhill. And they had really sort of brought it back to life again, and they wanted to make sure it was in good hands. And so they decided that we were those good hands. So we went ahead and did it. And so our plan to move to Broadstairs and have a quiet life and see a lot of our kids was absolutely bombed.
Yep.
And we suddenly had a business that was open 7 days a week. But anyway, so that was almost exactly 10 years ago.
We actually heard the news that the cinema, we were told the cinema was for sale while we were at a children's birthday party.
Right.
And came straight out of the party. So our children weren't abandoned.
Yeah.
But I came down and came to the cinema and said, is it true that you're possibly, up for selling the palace? Or this is for sale already.
Yeah.
And we had no intention whatsoever of, getting involved in this cinema. We just liked the fact that the cinema, and it was one of the things that probably drew us to live here. And then we...
It's quite a big commitment, isn't it?
It's a crazy commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, because we both worked in cinemas all our kind of professional lives before that in London, we thought we knew the cinema part of that and the distribution side.
Yeah.
So, we released a lot of films and very much the kind of art house. And both of us worked on the London Film Festival.
Oh, really?
And that's where we met, a long time ago, decades ago. And so we've had kind of, BFI, ICA, we've had cultural cinema, if you like, art house cinema. Running through our veins all our lives, and it's what we're passionate about.
Because cinema does become a passion, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah. There is no way you would do this if you didn't love doing it.
Yeah, totally. But my background was less useful, frankly, than Simon's, because my background was working in film and education. So I worked with schools and community groups and things like that, either using film in the curriculum or in sort of holiday animation workshops and things like that.
Really?
So that's what I'd been doing for a few decades. And then towards the end of the time, when I met Simon, I was more sort of standing back and sort of programming events and things that other people were doing. But yeah, so I had sort of skills in putting events together and putting programs together, but not actually as much industry knowledge as Simon did. So between the two of us, we had basically had just enough to take it on.
And you could put it together.
Yeah.
So when you took over the palace, which was formerly the Windsor, what did you have to do?
Well, we had to jump through a lot of hoops to get some funding to pay for buying the business, if you like. And so we got a grant to help us with that, which then we repaid over about 5 years.
That was a Kent County Council.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we had to take on staff. Obviously, we had to staff the place. We had to sign up to all the film companies for loads of bonds that they asked for.
Because you got to have the distribution, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, I'd worked, as well as the places I mentioned, I also was one of the founders of a thing called the Independent Cinema Office, which kind of programs films from around the world. Because one of the things we knew straight off the bat was there's a very good view up the road which shows a lot of the big commercial stuff. we're not going to go head to head with one of the biggest chains in the world.
Yeah.
So,
and then the Carlton showing basically the same programme. And
that's the view, yeah.
And at that point,
That's the one at Westgate, isn't
That's
it?
right.
Yeah.
So that's independent, but shows sort of Plex films.
Right,
Yeah.
got
That
you.
way.
And at that point, the Granville was open, also showing the same films, largely
really?
speaking. Yeah.
So we had to come up with something we thought to make it a kind of viable, future-facing, business. We had to sort of think, well, what's the USP? What's the unique thing that we can do and bring to the area? We slowly started to filter in kind of art cinema, if you like, or independent cinema.
Do you find that, because I was looking at your billboard outside, you have a balance, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. A balance is key, and one of the things we were really conscious of was that for a lot of people they've been coming here far longer than we've been alive. But we wanted to retain that for everyone. We didn't want to make it exclusive to any one type of thing. Holiday or older people who might want to come here.
And I remember when I worked in the industry back in the 70s. We had the Curzon, round the corner, and that was primarily an art cinema. In fact, I think it still is. Very much so. So how many people can you seat in your cinema?
111.
111.
Yeah. So we do about 88 down here. We're in the stalls in the cinema right now, and we've got a balcony as well, which the rest can fit in.
Wow.
And the balcony is very popular. So
Oh, is it really?
A lot of our regulars have specific seats that they want to book.
Wow.
So,
Wow. So you're linked in with all the main distributors? Everybody?
From the biggest to the smallest.
Yeah.
We have a relationship with all of them.
Do you ever sort of look back and think, wow, we never thought we'd own a cinema?
When we have time to look back, we do. We think exactly that. When we're not panicking and going, okay, who's got spare light bulbs? Who's got this? Then absolutely, we do. We often do that. And when we were, I'll say the C word once. When we were shut for COVID for a while, one of the nice things was we had to keep the gear running. Yeah. So you had to maintain it. So we would come in here with our children
and watch films
on the big screen. And, when the entire industry was shut down, and that sort of felt like eerie but a privilege. It was amazing. And I think we still watch. We do shows we put stuff on for ourselves and for people we work with here.
That must be quite nice, actually.
It is lovely. It's an
really
amazing perk.
And also, I think I was saying when we first started, we're working with the students from Broadstairs College. Obviously, 10 years later, we have loads of things in place. We have loads of structures and, the way we do things in place. But more importantly, that we have these amazing staff who, some of them have been here the best part of 9 years, have been here, I was about to say they're hard to get rid of, but we've never tried to get rid of them.
Wow, that's a harsh way of looking at it.
But they're your staff.
And
they obviously enjoy work.
Absolutely. And they are the face of the place. And it's because they are this amazing combination of understanding the building, knowing how it works, and just being, slightly obsessive about film. It just, they are, and they love it, and they are the face of it. It used to be Simon and me in the foyer a lot. Now we're not here so much. And
because cinema now has become, when you go to the big mainstream cinemas, it's very much ticket in. But I can remember when I used to go, Saturday morning pictures, which was, I loved it. You used to get an apple, didn't you? When you went in, they give you an apple and a little bag of popcorn and stuff. But you felt like you were so welcomed in, weren't you? And I'd imagine that's what this is, because it's small, it's independent.
Absolutely.
And many of the people who come by first name.
Absolutely.
Chat in the streets when we see them, and so very much so.
Absolutely. And also a couple of years ago we did a big project about local film heritage, which was about this cinema and about Broadstairs, but also Margate and Ramsgate. And we got a lot of volunteers involved in that who all said they'd like to be involved one way or another ongoing.
You've got a big volunteer community.
Yeah, we do. And so what we started about 3-ish years ago now was a volunteer usher scheme, which was really nice because, like Simon said, we're in the stalls downstairs now, so we're not right next to the foyer where the staff.
Do you do the ice cream,
We don't do the ice creams, unfortunately.
We do beer.
Yeah,
we do beer. That's fine. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we're happy now.
But what the ushers do, because they're not selling, they are just helping people know where they're sitting and looking after them. Is we've definitely. I mean, this is not not, one audience group, primarily. But, they've sort of said it's about, they will then recognise the people who come in, because they'll quite often do the same days.
Yeah.
And then people who come in here might come on the same sort of days. And then, and so we've got a lovely usher called Deborah who's been with us, I think, a couple of years now. And she was saying how sort of women on their own feel very comfortable coming to the cinema by themselves. They know they'll have a friendly face upstairs and downstairs. Yeah. They'll know they can ask anything, and so it's like if Deborah wasn't here as a volunteer usher talking to people in the stalls, we might have had that conversation with them, but that's all sort of develops, it grows, So I think
that's quite important, isn't it? That's quite
really
important.
is, and it makes us feel much more linked in. Yeah,
the cinema. I don't know what it is. It's a safe place, but it's also a place where you sit there and you get totally immersed. Don't you?
Yeah.
You disappear.
Yeah.
We ran a program, brief sort of special program called the Palace Passport, and it was again when people couldn't travel.
Yeah.
And we thought, wow, you really travel when you come into the cinema and you watch a film that's I don't know set in Uruguay or New York or wherever it is. You're in for those 2 hours. You're in that place.
You're there.
So it was like we stamped the passports, and then they got a free film by the end of it if they had enough stamps. But the idea was you travelled around the world through this rectangle.
Do you provide tissues as well? Because quite a lot of films are very emotional, aren't they?
Yeah, no, we give people a heads up on the way in.
Some people I know who are sitting too far from me right now use a lot of tissues.
Yeah, I'm a terrible. I'll cry at anything.
Me and my wife are terrible.
Yeah.
Just watch anything, innit?
Yeah.
So, history of the place. What's the history of this?
Yeah, well, we've done, like I say, we did that big project about 3 years ago, and that was really about identifying where all the cinemas in the three towns had been that we knew of at that point. But since then, I've done more research, and so we've sort of found other places, not necessarily built as cinemas, but places that turned into them. And this is one of those. So we know there was a building here back when the area was a shipyard, back in the 18th century. There was a building here, which we think was the building that was still around at the beginning of the 20th century, which was basically a kind of a boat store or a rigging shop or something.
So this building?
This building, or parts of this building. Probably the perimeter, some of the perimeter might be that original. But in 1910, it was bought by some rich DFLs who bought York Cake House next door, and this was just part of the lot, as it were. And so then it was transformed into a space which we understand was intended to be home for the collection of armour of the family member who had built it. He was basically a very famous
This is
historian.
what I love about Broadstairs.
I know, right?
Because you hear some quirky things.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
But it was basically the fellow who'd bought the lot. Yeah. He was a doctor. He was actually one of the doctors to Queen Victoria and her son, who became Edward VII. And his son was the armour expert, and who wrote books and was the King's armourer, and was one of the people who helped set up the Wallace collection and the collections at Dover Castle and stuff. And so he had his own collection of stuff. So the understanding was that he took this old, the history as we understand it so far was he took this old boat store, he knocked most of it down, built it back up as this slightly fancier, classical-looking building with the flint front and all of it, lovely. And then at that point, it was one big light space. So it had sort of four big windows looking down onto the sea, and it had the round window at either end and the big windows that end, the kind of fancier window. So it was one big light space, and then he died at the end of the 1910s, and the building was sold to the council, and they have owned it ever since. And to begin with, in its early years, it was used as a bit more of a sort of a dance hall because it was still brand new and quite shiny in the 20s, and then it started to be used more as a store and a workshop. And then it was only just directly after the end of the Second World War when basically all the coastal tourism, particularly in this area close to France, was absolutely decimated, and people were just coming back to live in the towns. Even it was just building up, but everyone had to literally make do and mend to try and get that tourist industry back on its feet as fast as possible. And so they were aware that this building was just sitting here right on the beach, but just being used as a workshop. And so they found any money they could to put it together, and it had been sort of just referred to as the Old Armoury or something. It didn't really have a name. It was just the Old Store or something. And then they renamed it at the end of 45, 46. They renamed it Yorkgate Hall, and kind of it had its new life. And so it opened, you know, with curtains made of blackout material. It had a stage the other end that was actually used. There had been Uncle Mac's minstrel show on the beach, and he'd had his own theatre on the beach. And that theatre had sort of fallen apart, and they decided it wasn't going to be rebuilt. But literally the wood that came from that stage was so precious after the war, because there were no new materials, that each amount of wood that was used to build that stage was kind of, you know, it was measured out for what was going to be used in here and then in other parts of the town. So it was, you know, it was amazing that it got reborn as Yorkgate Hall. Then it was hired out for lots of different purposes in the season and for locals, you know, local meetings or puppet shows in the summer holidays. And then it was in 1965 that it got turned into a sort of, everything else was moved out and the seats were put in to make it into a cinema.
Wonderful.
And that was because the other cinemas in town had closed down as well. So this was the only one.
So that was the birth of the cinema in Broadstairs?
That was the birth of this one. Well, there had been two massive cinemas where Poundland or Tesco's is now. That was the first cinema in 1910. That was massive. That had about, you know, best part of
because that's still got the facade up the top, isn't it?
Well, that was actually the whole thing was knocked down. So that's a sort of 1960s facade you can see there.
Right.
So that because there was actually a little kind of tiny glass covered shopping arcade that went down to the front. But that was from about 1911, 1912, and that was that when it first opened had about 800 seats. And where on York Street, where now there's Serene Court Flats, kind of a yellow three-storey flats. That was, it opened as the Royalty in the 30s, but became an Odeon, and that was another 800 seats or so. So at one point, in terms of all the places you could see a film in Broadstairs, in the kind of early 50s, like the heyday, there were about 1,600 cinema seats just in Broadstairs, let alone what was going on
because
in
cinema back in the 50s and 60s, it was a big thing, wasn't it? And even in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, well, it was teetering. Yeah, it started towards the mid 60s. It started teetering, but definitely it was mid 80s.
And the Poundland one had a retractable ceiling.
Yes,
so it would be open air, and then the rain would come and everyone would panic. I guess.
I can imagine.
No, there are still people who remember that. But they would literally, you'd have because it would be all the flip up seats, and you'd hear the seats flipping up and people kind of running over to the bit that was dry. No, it's honestly that, and we've done a lot of, there's much more we could do, but lots of interviewing people who worked in the cinemas or who went to them as audience members. This place, other places in Broadstairs and Ramsgate and Margate, and you know that it's always, you know, part of the pleasure is hearing repeated stories that lots of people have the same experience, and obviously you'll always get one-offs. You know that we had a lovely one where someone remembered being a lot of kids just out of school, boys just out of school, became projectionist assistants. That seemed to be quite a thing in the 50s and sort of early 60s. So there's quite a few fellas in their 80s now who have that experience. Yeah,
it's quite interesting to say about. I remember the projectionist when I worked for CIC.
Yeah.
And like I say, we had the cinema, which was about this size, in the basement, and we had two guys, Norman. He'd been a projectionist for years, and obviously it was all 35mm stock, and he had it was everywhere, tins of it everywhere.
Amazing.
You know. And so, how do you project now? Are you digital?
We're fully digital.
We inherited the digital. It was there before
we'd just gone in before we bought the business. But now there isn't much. You know, most new films aren't available on 35mm.
No,
there's a couple of people. Christopher Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, all these kind of
even does 70mm, doesn't he?
Yeah. So they do make a few, but you might be looking at when you think that there are probably minimum 10 films released every week. You're probably looking at 10 films across the entire year that are available on 35mm, and plus.
So everything for you is digital, and that's
And the films come down an electronic encrypted line to the cinema, so it's all quite high tech. You know,
really? So you don't get them as a physical.
Even 5 years ago, you used to get a physical hard drive delivered by a physical real person courier.
But now it's all.
Now it's 99% electronic delivery.
So it's all download.
Yeah. It takes about 3 days film because they're so big. The files are like half a terabyte.
And because now the quality is so high, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we're in the realms of the 4K, etc.
Yeah, and there's a romance to the 35mm. But I'm old enough that I remember, my formative years going to the cinema were all 35mm. And I remember, you'd always get a crap print.
And
you know, by the time it came to
independent
local
cinemas, independent cinemas used to get sent out 16 mil.
Yeah.
A lot of their films were on 16 mil.
Absolutely.
So this probably had that, didn't
And
it?
the prints, they did,
Yeah.
And the prints were hugely expensive. You know? So, I mean, it was my distributor hat doing 35 mil. It used to cost us about £3,000 for one print because you get subtitles put on it, and so there are quite rare prints, and you'd have maybe 5 of them in total, which you'd work around the country. You know, once it show it, pass it on to the next cinema, pass it on to the next, and it gradually deteriorates. Whereas now on digital, you see it the same as if you're on opening night in Leicester Square. You know, so that's the benefit.
That leads quite nicely. Opening night. What events do you hold?
Ooh, all sorts of events. So we do a mixture of partnerships. So and then we also do kind of private hires. So just recently we did one with we did a live event with a comedy group called Jumps. Do show a silent film.
You've got Buster Keaton coming up.
We do indeed.
To my left is your piano.
There is our piano, our trusty Joanna, and we have a fantastic pianist called Lillian Henley, who has done film soundtracks and played for her for quite a while. And so once a month she comes and she does a live score, and she's fantastic.
That must be really good.
Oh, it's amazing. And we started, and when we've done, is it 60 or 70 now? We started in 2016, but we've done a massive range of silent stuff. Loads of comedy.
How many have we done now?
I can't remember. I think it might be 70. Yeah. So
70 shows.
Because the old silent films, there's something about a black and white silent film.
Totally. And also what's really lovely about them, especially with the silence, when we show Buster Keaton, so we might show 3 sort of 25-minute shorts, and increasingly people bring their kids, and that is the fun of it. Because people are going to be laughing out loud anyway, but if you hear someone who is 8 laughing out loud at Buster Keaton, then and can't stop laughing, everyone's going to start laughing as well. And it's just the pleasure of a film that's over 100 years old, but it's just as funny.
It's kind of like time travelling, because you can imagine if you shut your eyes and listen to the kids' laughter, that's 100 years ago. The exact noise was coming into this space.
And it's not to say by no means is it an audience is predominantly an audience of adults, I have to say, so it's occasional kids, but it's lovely when they come, just to have that as part of it.
So you have a balance of films, you were saying. You do art movies, you do the big, like you've got Sinners at the moment, which is just won Academy Awards, and so that gets more people to come to the cinema. But do you feel that all the the skies and everything are taking away people from the cinema?
I kind of think it's a bit like, originally when TV came, everyone panicked. Cinema's dead, television's in our living rooms, so we're not going. People like going out. The same then when video hit, in the 80s. Cinema's dead, video, people can watch what they want when they want. Now it's, Netflix to me is like a kind of version of 1980s, the arrival of video. And so I think there's nothing which replaces a communal experience.
No.
It does definitely affect, if something is on Netflix and it's a new film by a big-name filmmaker with a starry cast, we probably won't bother showing it here because it does eat into that
I did notice, the Leonardo DiCaprio film is already available.
And
I thought that they'd wait a long time before it would become available. Because I think, I did watch it, and that's a film you want to see in the cinema. There's certain films, doesn't matter if you've got an 85-inch TV screen.
The film is immersive.
The cinema is the place to watch it.
You don't have the phone ringing, someone come briefly.
Or somebody knocking on your door.
We're going to have a cup of tea, let's pause it, So you're really in it.
And sound.
Sound
is so important. I see you've got all the multiples.
It's really important to us.
You have that,
when the rain's coming down, you hear it above you coming down. And that's, hard to reproduce.
But also we work with this great company, Omnex, and when they come and check the sound and balance it, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hours, and they have got all the kit just to make sure that everything is perfectly balanced, and it's going to be just in the, just in this small space, So really, we don't go to other cinemas in order to reflect back on how brilliant we are. That's not what we do. But sometimes we will go to other cinemas. We'll just go, literally, we're in a fancier cinema, and literally either the sound or the picture are not as good as what we've got here. And again, we're not looking for that, but it does make you feel good that it is worth all those hours that are put into making.
So how many films do you put on a week?
we usually put on about 3 different titles a week.
Yeah.
And we play, we intercut them on different days, so you can usually see when the cinema's open, you can see a couple of different films on that day, even though we're just one screen. So that's generally what it is.
Yeah, it makes a big difference only having one screen. If you've got 2 or 3, just as a business, you've got so much more flexibility.
Yeah.
So here it's got Simon's picking the films.
We sort of have to choose what we play very carefully, because we can't just take it off if it's not working, because we print a program for a month ahead.
Yeah.
Most bigger cinemas just move a film that's not working into their smallest screen and let it languish there. You contractually,
but yours is there, and that is what is available to come and see.
So you have to make the right choices, and sometimes you don't. And you go, But usually, we watch most things long in advance before they come out to sort of choose. We can generally get to see it, which is nice. It's a nice perk, although we're used to it, having done it for 30 years now.
Yeah. It's nothing like seeing a film, like when I was in the industry, months sometimes before it comes out, and you sit there and you go, oh, that was good.
Yeah.
Actually, back to comparing, when you mentioned about comparing kind of really flash cinemas with your own cinema, I remember going to see something before 20th Century Fox was bought by Disney, and they had a private screening room on Soho Square in London. Yeah. And I remember going in there, I can't remember what the film was, but watching some pretty big film maybe 3-4 months before it was coming out, and I could hear a buzz on one of the speakers. One of the speakers was blown. And I remember thinking, here I am, there's all Eames loungers, and the whole place was a lot of money. Yeah. And my ear is going, okay, that speaker's blown. How come no one else is fixing that? And then I thought, maybe that's because Disney are buying it, and they know they're going to lose the buildings. They're not putting anything into it. And I thought, if you were a filmmaker, this is like one of the first 2 or 3 screenings in the country for journalists. You want it to be tip-top, So,
very much, very much.
And I thought, why little seaside cinema wouldn't let a speaker be blown?
Have you ever thought about, because I know you've had directors and producers and everybody who come in and do a question and answer, either before or after a film. And is that something you want to continue doing?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's, one of the stage that you are sitting on now at the front of the stalls was originally small, and it was actually built by the people who had the cinema before us, because Colin was actually had a light-up cinema organ, which he had on that stage, and it was built for that. And so when they left, they took the organ. So the little stage was still there. So we extended it a bit, precisely so we could now fit sort of just about at a squeeze 4 or 5 people on it. Because exactly that, we just think making the Palace a place where people can not only watch a film but kind of understand a bit more about the film industry, whether it be someone who loves the book that the film was based on, or a student who's thinking of getting into film in some way. We just think we really want this, and again, it's for this cinema to be something you can't get anywhere else around here. And when there's film
it's intimate,
festivals,
isn't it?
Absolutely. And when
Totally
there's things like the film festivals, when there's Ramsgate or Margate film festivals, they will have special events. But those those are fantastic, but they're just sort of for a few days every year. So we just want to keep the rest of the year to make the Palace a place where people think of. And it might be a big film that's got a big release, or it might be that young people have made a film locally. We've done a few screenings with the Prince's Trust.
That's really good, isn't it?
Yeah,
brilliant.
And so you'll get a bunch of young people who've never made a film before, done this great project with the Prince's Trust, and then they'll see their film for the first time on the big screen
with an audience,
with their mum, friends and relations. So
who can be their best critic.
Well, for all of those reasons, I think we really want this stage to be a place which feels like it's part of the community in terms of where people will talk about stuff that they've done, but also a place to kind of link this cinema in Broadstairs to the wider film industry, whether from this country.
Give us some names of people who've done their bits here.
I
know you've had quite a few.
Yeah, we have had a few. One of my favourites actually was just after lockdowns, and we, sort of all cinemas were trying to sort of, because there was social distancing and all sorts of stuff, all cinemas were doing their best to try and, in effect, sell cinema back to people who were justifiably nervous. We were in touch then with Nadia Stacey, who is now an Oscar-winning film and makeup designer. She won it for Cruella, I think, is what she won it for. Wow. No, Poor Things she won it for.
Right.
But anyway, she at that point lived in Margate, and we got in touch and asked if she would come and do a talk about her work. And she's worked on loads of enormous films, basically. What's the one she's on at the moment? Which... I can't remember.
Yorgos Lanthimos she works with all the time.
But there's another kind of big budget. Anyway, lovely woman. She lived there, and she came and just gave a free Q&A for an audience of like 35 people at that point, but just to support the palace, to kind of give us up our profile.
Really? Yeah.
And she was fantastic then, but she doesn't live in Margate anymore. But she is Oscar winning, so she was amazing. Also, more recently, we had a guy who is an actor who lives in Ramsgate and was in a smaller French film called Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. And he was an actor in that. And he just got in touch and said, are you thinking of showing this? Because if you are, then I'd come and talk.
I'd like to come and talk.
Yeah, and so he came and talked about his career and his work on the film.
We've got quite a few actors who live in Broadstairs.
Yeah.
There was a guy I saw the other day, I'm not going to say his name.
Yeah.
And I thought, I remember seeing you in that film.
Yeah.
And I thought, and it's just strange because you sort of think, wow.
You think, I know that person. No, I don't actually know them. I've just seen them on the screen.
I've seen them on the screen. And you sort of, and I go to my wife, that's guy who's in blah blah. Because I think we all do that. We go, that's so and so out of whatever.
Yeah.
But
no, we've had some really nice people. But also what we've had is, lots of people who discover the palace for the first time once they're on the stage, as it were. And then they become really supportive of the cinema afterwards. They start following us on Instagram and,
that's good.
all of that. Exactly.
Yeah,
so that's really nice. Yeah.
Has the palace ever been used in a film?
Quite a few times. Most recently, probably Juliet Naked. With
Juliet Naked. But it was filmed across the road as well. They used the house, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they've only used the outside. They haven't. I mean, we're used quite a lot by students. Next Monday actually, we've got students in here all day filming from Canterbury Christchett. Yeah, so we work a lot with local colleges to be the location for student shoots. But Juliet Naked was one, and they just used the outside.
Lady in the Van was,
and the Lady in the Van.
Oh,
was the
Lady
other
in the
one.
Van.
Maggie Smith outside.
And Ethan Hawke came in to watch films here while he was shooting.
Was
he came in
did
to
he
watch
really?
actual films. And one of them, I'm really going to struggle to remember which one, but had starred Juliette Binoche, and then about a year and a half later, he was working with her. And I was thinking, I wonder if you came to watch this French film, to kind of check out, what she was doing, and so on. So
we didn't get him on stage, unfortunately. He was busy.
No.
Yeah, Ethan Hawke was busy.
How would you guys sum up your love for cinema?
For me, it's constant curiosity of what I'm always wanting to see, the next thing, the next new film from around. I love it.
And I think I'm the same, but I think since we've taken on this place, much more of a real joy in hearing about other people's experience of that escapism and that love of cinema. We've interviewed people who will, from their memories of watching films in the 40s, and really the essence of it is always the same, that thing of going into this special space, maybe getting your snacks, sitting down with your people, and then the lights go down, and just like that shared experience.
There's something about that, isn't there?
There's a romance
Love
to
it.
It's
And for all different reasons, people who are kind of just want the escapism, people who love a particular actor, people who love a particular story, and it's just that is such a beautiful shared experience. I love it. I love that. Love talking to people about it.
Bring it to I was in with a plumber a little while ago, and he was a bit older than me. I'm in my 50s because you can't see me, and he was just saying, "Oh, I remember coming to see E.T. here as a little boy."
Oh yeah,
and it's that it's been a physical presence in this town for so long that it's part of a lot of people's lives, and that feels like a real privilege for us to be. We often talk about how we don't feel like the owners, we feel like the caretakers, and we know hopefully someone with the same
because you're
passion
bringing
as us will
something
take
to
after us.
people, aren't you?
And I think also the fact that we are, because all the people before us who worked here and looked after this place all had kind of longer local connections, and so that the fact that we are now really immersed not only in the new films but also in the local film heritage means that we're all the people who had those connections going back decades we're in touch with now. So it sort of feels we're connected with that history of it. It's not like we've just kind of parachuted in and it all starts with us. We're absolutely aware of being on a continuum, and there were people after we've
and
gone.
I think since the 60s, we're only the fourth owners of the cinema. So it stays with people for quite a long time.
And
So
what
it
would
feels
you-
important to pass it on.
What would you say to people to encourage them to come to the cinema?
I don't know. I'm in charge of marketing, and I could never answer that one.
I think it just is for, the price of a beer or two,
Yeah,
you get to travel the planet.
You do.
And see things that you would never otherwise see,
Yeah.
experience things and feel things. It's like an emotion machine.
I'm going to ask you a question. What's your favourite film?
Okay, I do have a favourite film, actually. That's an easy one. Funny Girl with Barbara Streisand.
Really?
100%.
Simon?
I cannot, and in all truth, I cannot answer that question. I have spent 30 years watching every single film that's released and many that aren't released. And one floating here, and I think it's because you mentioned it earlier before we started this interview, is 2001. It's 70mm, 35mm, digital.
And if it comes on, you'll still watch it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. My kids think it's one of the most boring films ever made. They're wrong. They're deeply wrong. And one day they'll realise it.
I mean, for me, it's Captain Courageous with Spencer Tracy and Freddie Bartholomew.
And why that?
I don't know.
Right.
It's just one of those films that you sit and you just sit there and you go, wow,
Yeah.
there's something about it.
Yeah.
It's one of those films.
Yeah.
It's a bit like everybody goes, when a certain film comes on TV, I'm not going to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I did it the other night. The Wolf on Wall Street came on. And I started the first 10 minutes and I thought, I better go, but no what.
Yeah.
Anyway, I stayed and watched the whole film.
It's
but
so
I know
gripping.
it.
Yeah.
But that's the joy of film.
Yeah.
That you can watch a film over, and every time you watch it, you'll find something new.
Absolutely.
And then it's that's the thing with, I mean, I know that I like Funny Girls so much because I saw it first when I was a teenager and it really hit me. But it's the pleasure, of seeing new things, but also of seeing it around again. And, you get to the point where literally you can mouth the dialogue, you know exactly what, and that's the pleasure of it.
Oh, yeah.
And even if the film hasn't changed, you have.
Yeah.
You see it when you're 20, you take one thing from it, you see it when you're 30
Exactly.
and then 40 and then 50 and so
I mean,
on.
when I worked in the industry, I can remember we did a press junket for a week on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I had to sit in.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen that film, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, cinema is very much, it's always been a part of me. And obviously it's a part of you guys, So, this is going to be my final question to you.
Sure.
What film are you looking forward to coming out this year? Because there's some big stuff coming this year. There are some quite...
Yeah, there's always big stuff coming.
coming out,
Literally,
You've frozen our brains because they're just full of tons and tons of films.
Yeah.
The next film that I'm really looking forward to showing here is The Love That Remains, which is this Icelandic film, which is basically about a family kind of going through a divorce.
Yeah.
It's very funny, it's incredibly touching,
Yeah.
and it's
next week as well.
Oh, it's next week as well.
So when you say looking forward, I just as far as I can look forward.
You can look forward to next week.
Yeah.
I'll put you on the spot, haven't I?
I know,
you
honestly,
have.
but that's, when I say I'm doing the marketing, it's like literally I could be standing outside the cinema and someone will say, what have you got coming up? I'm just like, I have no idea. I'm just like, I've got another 50 things in my head about the cinema, but literally it's almost like when the programme's done, that's just like one part of our job is kind of getting the programme out, getting the flyers out, getting it on the website, and then we've got everything else to do. So it's like it doesn't become, So literally I've got no answer to that, which I know is ridiculous.
I'm looking
but I've
forward
got
to
no answer.
Disclosure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
That'd be
think
great.
that's gonna
When's
be-
that out? Is that?
That's late November, I think.
Right, okay.
Something like that. But I think that's going to be an interesting film.
Yeah.
It's Spielberg.
Yeah, and hopefully getting back to his kind of, glory days.
Yeah,
Very
very
Close
much.
Encounters, etc. Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
And obviously being probably given bits of information by a certain government.
Yes.
Yeah, let's hope
Because
so.
I do wonder on that one.
Yeah.
I
Let's
do
see
wonder
that.
because I think Spielberg's got an inner into somebody,
Yeah. Yeah.
and because these films are quite deep, aren't they?
Well,
Some
they
of them.
are.
I
They
think we
are.
should do another one of these podcasts about aliens. Because you're the existence of.
Right, we'll do that. You're on. We're going to talk about aliens in Broadstairs.
Forget DFL.
Yeah, we're talking about aliens in Broadstairs. Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, guys, it's been. I mean, I've loved this because I've got a passion for cinema.
That's so clear to me watching you.
I just love it, and you guys have as well. And thank you for what you do with this place, bringing cinema to Broadstairs.
Such a privilege to do it.
And are you going to do the Broadstairs Film Festival?
Well, I mean, there is already a thing that's actually literally taken that title, the Broadstairs Film Festival, but there is kind of a different operation.
Could you not change the names?
Well, we did. When honestly,
Broadstairs International Film Festival.
Even better. Yeah. Well, we're near France.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, literally, when we took on the place, we more or less did a bit of a kind of a list of all the stuff we wanted to do. And this is 10 years ago, and then we found out how much work it is to run a cinema. So things like a film festival. So that's in a way when we do our special events and we have people from the industry on stage. It's almost just like we kind of just keep it bubbling all the time rather than piling it all into 2 or 3 days.
Definitely.
But we did Broadstairs, our horror film festival, and Broadstairs was great. And so that was a bit more concentrated, and we had a lot of people on stage for that. That was fun. So we might do something like that again, a kind of a slightly spread out season rather than a festival.
I have a fantasy film festival that I would like to do.
Really?
Yeah. So I've spent a lot of years going to all the big film festivals around the world.
Yeah.
And one of the things you go there is like you go to something like Cannes, you go and you see somewhere between 40 and 50 films in a 10-day window. You're seeing 4 or 5 a day. And it's too much. Your brain gets...
Yeah, you can't take it all in, can you?
So I've always thought the real pleasure would be to show 3 great films, just one a day, maybe show it twice, and everyone can go for dinner and talk about that film and have a filmmaker with you and film, and not have to see 25. But that's ridiculously impossible to do because it would be so expensive. Like, who's going to pay for that?
We really need, if there are any millionaires,
there's a few millionaires in Broadstairs.
Excellent. We're not fussed to take any of them.
We track them down. And finally, why do you like living in Broadstairs?
Oh, it's just sense of community, number 1, I would say. Beautiful, number 2. I'd say those are mine.
It's so friendly and so, you get to meet some really interesting people from all walks of life. And I love that.
Yeah, and I think we're really lucky, as we've said about the cinema, the fact that it does tend to bring in more or less everyone. Yeah. So we do see everyone in here for whatever film.
Yeah, we've met probably all the people that we kind of have become friends. We have actually met through being people who come here all the time. We've just got chatting and talking, and then it's like.
And the other thing is with Broadstairs, you walk along, 5-minute walk turns into a 20-minute walk.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. It's still, it's amazing. The beaches, it's just
great.
Gorgeous.
It's great.
When you come out of here at night, as we do quite often, and you just see the moon hitting the sea and the jetty, and it's just magical.
It is.
We never tire of that.
No.
Is that the same for you for Broadstairs? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Been here with DFL 10 years, and I don't know what it is. We've just fallen in love with the place. Worked in London all our lives. But when you're driving down that 299 and I see the windmill, I think,
and
not far to go.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we've got friends one set of friends, came down to visit, live here.
Yes.
And we know so many people who've come from our area who we still see down here. And it's got everything you want. Including the Palace Cinema.
You're welcome.
So I do thank you for today.
Thank you.
And it's really interesting. And again, I've learnt something. I've learnt things about this place. So I wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you again for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really
for having
appreciate
us.
it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening to Broadstairs Life. You can follow us on Facebook and various other social media platforms, including YouTube. Thank you for listening.